Josh, before we dig too deep into the state at large, I want to start with what Ellison was discussing. Former felons who didn't have their fees paid were not going to have the right to vote. Mike Bloomberg himself was part of a very big effort in the last month to get those fees paid for a number of former felons. Did it work? Did they get registered? Did they vote?
Certainly, Stephanie, from the data we see, you have an incredible amount of enthusiasm with voters, particularly in the state of Florida. You see that in communities of color. It's material. The total number of former felons who have been reenfranchised, it's not something that you can readily go find in the data. So I can't answer your question specifically, but what I can say is that enthusiasm across all communities of color within Florida, a rapidly diversifying state, is really material for this election. And it's something that's going to distinguish 2020 from 2016.
But this is also a last-ditch effort. Can you talk about what Republicans have done in the last few years in the state of Florida in terms of organizing, activating, and getting more people, and I'm not talking about felons, registered to vote?
So Florida has a grand tradition of both parties, voters in both parties being very open to voting by mail, to voting early in person. We're seeing that in the incredible amount of enthusiasm. So let's use yesterday as an example. 700,000 Floridians waited in line to go vote early. Now, that has a perfectly bipartisan split. So Biden supporters can't rest easy. This is very, very much a race. And so you see in the data, right, registrations are up overall. You see participation up at extraordinary rates. And yet there's also some dark moments. The president's dialogue around fraud in the vote by mail system, in not trusting the process and in suggesting that there's going to be malfeasance, has it so that only about a third of Floridians believe that their vote is actually going to count. And that's terrifying, and that's not promising.
Because President Trump has dissuaded so many from participating in early voting, absentee voting, should we be prepared for an explosion of voters on Election Day, specifically Trump voters?
I think we're going to see that there's an incredible amount of participation across all voters. That message, as I said a moment ago, that message of there is induced fraud into the system has landed with voters of both parties. So again, focusing on the state of Florida, you have about 3.7 million Floridians who have already cast their ballots. And yet, out of the entire state, that's actually a small fraction of the total number who likely will vote. And so the expectation is that it will be a very busy election day for both sides. And yet, because the participation rates between Democrats and Republicans in vote by mail on account of COVID and mistrust in the system, is that Democrats participate about 2.5 times greater in that vote by mail process, does in fact mean that the Trump team has far more ground to make up on Election Day than Democrats should. And yet, like I said, early vote, it's been about a 50-50 split. And so we're going to have to watch that over the next couple of days. Early vote in person in Florida just started in some counties on Monday.
You warned us about the so-called red mirage, where Trump will appear to have won on Election Day before the mail-in votes are counted, and more people are concerned that the president won't then accept those mail-in votes yet, won't accept the ultimate results if Joe Biden does win, call it a few weeks later. Have your views changed on that, or are you still expecting this red mirage?
For us, it was a scenario that we wanted to talk about because it is a very manifest reality that those machine counts are what come out on election night very early, and that's what network talkers get to refer to. Florida happens to be a state that progressively counts the vote by mail ballots that they receive, but many other key battleground states are not like that. And so it can take days for their vote by mail ballots to be counted. And that offset is very material. So it isn't that Trump will be winning on election night. It's that machine count will look like he's having a much better night and has been a much better election for him than it will, in fact, be once every vote is truly counted.
And isn't there a chance that the president will then consider that winning and push that narrative?
I think he said as much, right? He's not shy. He's telegraphed that quite explicitly. It's something that's very concerning, I would hope, to all Americans. And so consequently, the most important thing is being educated on what the data is that we're going to be seeing on election night. What does it really say? What are the trends? And understanding what's important in the democratic process. Having said all that, it's been incredibly encouraging to see states do quick work to try to get better at teaching voters how to vote by mail appropriately. And you've also got a situation where states are now trying to put in more capacity to do that count quicker. Now, having said all of that, we're going to see. We won't know until the 4th or the 5th or the 6th. And that remains a going concern.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.